take all the requests he wants, and he can forward all the requests from all the citizens in Acton. And it doesn't matter if they don't want to, if they don't want to make the changes, then the plans are going to come back the same way they were. And the other problem is the one we've always had is we don't quite know what's going to be there. So it's a tough nut to get a 2/3 vote at a town meeting. Yes, Jeff.
Are you saying that the 2 turn lanes was a state decision?
Yeah.
Because the thing that resonated with me is if this is supposed to be a quaint town center of things, it's an oxymoron to have 3 lanes of traffic in a quaint town center. And you can't say it's walker friendly when you have to walk. I mean, I've tried walking across 3 lanes of traffic. And it didn't resonate with me that waiting a minute to get through was a big deal.
Who appointed you the designee of quaint town center?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I just, it seemed like there were, that was not represented that way, and
if you want to use the state's money to redesign an intersection, you're going to have to play by their rules. If you want to do it with town money, that's fine. But as long as you're, and I don't even know if you can do it with town money because it's a state highway, but we're not totally in control of the process. Yes, Christine.
So I wonder if that, I mean, it just lacked specificity in that department. The ultimate plan lacked specificity. We had a picture up on the screen that showed X number of parking spaces at Bueno, and there was argument over whether that was the final or it was this other one with different number of, so there was just too much. I don't know which trees are getting taken down. I don't know how many parking spaces from which people, and part of me wonders also if it would do better if it wasn't linked to Kelly's Corner, if it was just a traffic redesign of the area and renamed, honestly, because people want to discuss what the future of Kelly's Corner is, and what we're really trying to fix, regardless of Kelly's Corner, are these major traffic issues. And so I feel like we relieve that baggage of Kelly's Corner, deal with the traffic issues. Yes, it will help eventually with whatever we do with Kelly's Corner, but we don't need to bring the baggage along for this particular vote.
Okay, so let's move on. Now, we're going to critique ourselves for this past year. And we don't get better by handing out compliments. We get better by taking a hard look at what we did. And yeah, a lot of it was good, but some of it could be better. So I won't go to Dave this time. I'll start with Bob.
I'm not sure that I have any comments of what could be better. I thought it was a reasonably good year. I think there is a problem with talking to the schools in March about our plan for how to allocate the monies of the town that really should be done in the fall. So it seems to me that in future years, if you can't schedule these things before the 1st of January, it's not worth, I think, talking about it, because by that time you've already interacted with the school committee, you've interacted with the selectmen, and the budget Saturdays have come and gone, and things are pretty fixed by that point. But.
Jeff.
I thought it went pretty well. I think I believe a heterogeneous committee with different strengths and interests and experiences is far superior to a bunch of people who always start off with the same mindset. So the fact that we're very different in the committee is a strength, I believe. And one of the things that just dawned on me is that continuity sometimes is difficult. So I would like us to keep a to-be-addressed file, if that's what I could call it. There were many commitments made during budget Saturdays and other times when town officers or the school would say things like, yeah, great, when we finish through town meeting, we'll get on this, or we'll follow up on that, or whatever. And I'm not so sure if we didn't, if we don't put them on notice that the first agenda for any meeting is to go over the last meeting of the open items and make sure that they have answers to the open items, and, we got some clarity on that, because I know that as I was getting ready for tonight, I was going through the old papers, and we had lots of different questions, and many of the answers would, after town meeting, I'll get to it, or after, and I don't know that either the person asking the question will even remember, let alone anybody else in the committee. So I like to start off with.
I know of a couple that will continue to be asked until they're answered.
Yeah, and I just think it would be a good way to do that. I know when the selectmen came, I asked them if they had a goal sheet from the prior year, and do they go over it and see how far they've come on the last one before they set the new goals for the next year. So that's my.
Christine?
I don't have a lot to compare it to. I've enjoyed the last year. I don't really have anything else.
Christine?
Similarly, I'm just running to learn everything I can for this, and it's been fascinating, but I can't say how it's been done compared to anything else.
Well, let me throw it back at you. Did you feel that we learned you enough?
Well, how could you? It's not
It's a
possible.
lot
As
to
much
learn.
as what I'm learning is the history of everything, looking towards the continuity. Jeff was talking about on the small scale, but even the larger scale, it's the things that people who've been around for a long time know about, the negotiations that happened with this and that, and trying to get all the bigger things in place and figure out what the smaller things are to be remembered going forward over time.
Well, after tonight, you can't use the I'm new here line.
Okay.
Next year, you will not be able to say that. You'll-
I have to hold on to it for as long as I can then.
Mike, you're not new here.
Yeah, I think it was good that our point of view document is starting to be, I think, acknowledged by different groups, the Board of Selectmen, your leadership group. They're starting to factor, our point of view issues or guidelines or wishes into those budgets, and I think that's making a lot of sense. Also, I think we should almost be like the Board of Selectmen have at the beginning of their year, they come up with a list of top 10 items or whatever that they would like to accomplish, and maybe we should, similar to, or an offshoot of our point of view, maybe identify some issues that should be addressed and start tackling them. And I'm sure there's lots of things that need discussion and research to establish some kind of point of view. Other than that, I think it was pretty non-controversial this year, went pretty smoothly. Thank goodness there weren't any or too many complicated issues that needed addressed, but I think, as our chairman likes to say, then there's tomorrow, and there's a lot of things on the horizon, like the school issues, capital budgets, and could be some dark clouds ahead that we maybe should start preparing for.
Jason?
Two things that I think we could have done better on this last year, and something I'm going to keep in mind for next year. If it's important to you, make sure it gets in the point of view. The point of view document was used as the yardstick against which other entities were measuring their work, and once they met the letter of the POV, that was where the water ended. If there's things that we want to have be accountable then make sure you put it in the POV. Don't just have a set of numbers of what we want them to hit. If there's other things that are important to us, it's got to be listed. The second thing that I learned from this last year that I would like us to do better at, and I'm speaking specifically to myself on this one, is make sure that you properly disseminate a question. Don't make the expectation that if you send a question to one entity, that it will get to the end person who is supposed to answer it. It allows for a duck and cover, which I don't want to have to go through again. So while it's probably bucking the policy of other entities, by all means, make sure you carbon copy the person who's responsible for it, but or the head of that entity. But if there's a specific person who can answer your question, make sure they hear it right from the start. So that's the main thing I learned this last year.
Roland?
I think visiting the PTSOs worked well this year. My wife had a joint PTSO meeting with all the PTSOs from all the schools, and I had to go and pick up my son, and they go, "Oh, you're the person from finance who was here last time." So I was like, it was a meeting that you and I attended. So, you know, I think that works well. It gets us out in front of them, in front of the other entities that wouldn't normally hear from us or see us or know what's going on, know what our concerns are. So I think we need to continue that, and I think that the more that we do that, we'll get better at being able to do things like that and to get familiar with doing that.
Do you agree with Bob's assessment of getting done before the first of the year?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's. I mean, I think we need to do. Again, I think we need to hit it in the fall. They need to know where we're coming from at that point. So, especially the school committee. You know, we do have representatives there that, when they're setting their budgets, knowing what our concerns are, because, you know, we have some big things come up next year or two, and schools and the North Acton Fire Station, et cetera. So I think there's things that we need to stay on top of and have our point out there.
Roland? Dave? I'll come back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, one thing I think we did on a per meeting basis was you solicit input from all the team members, both new and not new, and I think that's very good. It's sort of, brings you to the table to have an opinion on an issue, and it may not be, fully vetted, or you may not have thought through every angle, but at least it gets a conversation going, similar to how we're doing right now. So I think that was something new that has been added and has worked relatively well. And I'll just echo some of the other comments. Maybe I won't just repeat them, but a lot of the stuff that we've talked about over the years about process that seem to be, at least in my tenure, incrementally improving, such as getting the warrant sooner, getting our opinions into the printed warrant, having, more informed debate about the warrant articles. It does seem to be incrementally getting better, I think, every year, and it's good to see that sort of momentum. And then last, I'll just echo Mike's point about the point of view is, it does seem like it's, sort of taken a little more root this year. And I do agree that getting in front of the different committees and organizations around town and getting our word in front of them, I think it just, creates the view that, oh, there's this committee there, I wasn't really sure, I'm not sure what they do, but now they're talking to me and I know who they are, and just sort of that consistency and following through. So I think there's some good groundwork laid that in the last couple of years that's, moving things forward in a good direction.
Jeff?
What Roland said just resonated in my head. Having been with that PTSO and also to the Rotary, it not only gave us an opportunity to talk with them about a process and get them to understand that it wasn't just, we just take 5 minutes and quickly vote, but it gave them a chance to engage in some discussion, which I found very refreshing in terms of our role of educating the town. Because we have a point of view, but we're neutral in terms of political sides. And I thought at the PTO was particularly interesting because they asked some questions about, well, it's almost like egocentric. Well, school, that's the only thing you deal with, right? And we started talking about, well, the seniors and the growing need for senior needs. And they started, really? Well, what? And we had some good discussion about, well, that's why the senior center was spending some money, and that the schools didn't just get everything from the town, but there were other needs in the town. And it was a great, it was not confrontational. It was a very, very positive discussion we had. And I think some people in the PTSOs came away with, yeah, I never thought about all these other things that the town has to balance. And isn't that really what we're trying to accomplish, is an informed electorate that can come to town meeting and look at give and take and understand the balance necessary of the how much we can afford. So I think more than just selling our point of view, there's a lot more benefit of, like, this was the first year the Rotary ever had a presentation.
I think and it was more a stroke of luck than planning, but because of the special town meeting in December 4th, I accelerated the point of view schedule to get it done earlier probably than we had ever had it done before. And I think in this case, whether you have a special town meeting in December next year or not, I think you should try and hold to that schedule, because getting it out early is important. It also, to Bob's point, gives you something to go talk to groups about before January. One interesting note on the PTSO outreach meetings, when the first year we did it, there was a school committee member shadowing every single one of us who went anywhere. Jason can remember that. Now they pretty much let us go and talk to the parents on our own. What I will say about the point of view that we didn't do so well is we had way too many iterations of that document. I mean, to some extent, it was a good document because of all the iterations, but on the other hand, we took a lot of time and a lot of meetings going through it. So we could have done that more efficiently, I thought. But I think you will next year, because there are a lot of new members. This year, we also devoted time to training this summer that you won't have to do as much of next year. But yeah, I would say the best thing we did was get that point of view out and get it out early, and kept it real. I mean, we didn't ask people to do the impossible. We didn't ask the school community to cut back on salary increases that they'd already collectively bargained for the next year. I mean, it has to be something that is achievable. And we did get time in front of both the Board of Selectmen and School Committee to present it, which we had not, it had been spotty in the past. Some years we did, some years we don't. I think it's important to do that. So, John, any comments?
I thought it was a very good year. The key piece in the point of view was asking the school and the town sides to keep their budget increase to 3%. I thought that was probably a little light, and we'd wind up having to back down some. But in fact, the town came in at 2.5%, and the school was at 3.1%. So that's, to the committee's credit, and Jason, really the most ardent advocate of that. Thank you very much. And just as as I move on, continue your role as being the responsible advisory board, and it is fine to offer balanced approaches, and the more balanced and the more thoughtful the approach, the better it's going to be received. And as I was a strong supporter of when you're doing the financial planning, keep in mind that we're on a long run of where actual revenues exceed the projected revenues, and just don't hesitate in, using those funds to meet current year's needs, because those are revenues that have come in, in the normal course. And, the school and town both give the citizenry a very good, bang for the buck. So I would, when you ultimately come down to the issue of how much free cash are we going to use, you have to use it, and don't hesitate, and continue doing it responsibly.
Janet, since you sat at just about every one of our meetings, I don't want to exclude you from giving us your thoughts on how we did or what we could do better.
I would just echo what other people have said about getting the point of view out early, because I know I think that was among the feedback that I and perhaps other people provided when you were asked. I don't know, Margaret asked for feedback somewhere. I remember saying that the point of view, if you want people to be able to use it and take it seriously, you've got to get it out earlier before all the budgets are really starting, well, the two budgets are starting to get formed and solidified, because once they're kind of starting to be etched, then it's very hard to back off of them. And I think that was why there was a little more flexibility, certainly on the town side, to consider the standards. Of course, there's always something, you're not going to get all the things in your point of view, but I think you came pretty close this year. There was an effort, a bona fide effort to meet them, but anyhow.
Thank you. All right, then, moving on. Next item on the agenda, pretty much what Mike was talking about, ideas for projects for the next year. Schedule-wise, I think we probably will not meet 2 weeks from now. I'll be away for one, and I think a couple other members have mentioned they might be. So our meeting would probably be next meeting would probably be May 22nd. So you have some time to think about this one. But, somebody might think we need to establish key performance indicators. I don't know who that might be, but but if there is such a person on the committee, then maybe in May they could come with some idea of what they think those might be and how we establish them.
Mr. Chairman, for our
No.
or for the town and school?
Yeah, for the town and school. One citizen has suggested we break out the tax rate per 1,000 into the pieces, so much for the schools, so much for the police, so much for the fire, and compare them to other towns. The first part of that, I think, is a relatively easy exercise. The second part is not. So we'd have to, I don't think it's a bad idea, but I know the devil's in the details when you start comparing yourself to other towns. We may want to, based on the fact that we'll be going to bond markets, we may want to take a more detailed review of our audited financials for both the town and the schools, because indeed that's what the bond rating people look at. They don't look at the ALG plan. So these are just a couple of ideas that have come up. But I would urge you all to think about those things for the next meeting, which would be like in a month from now. Yes, you've already got it figured out, haven't you, Jeff?
Pardon me?
You've already got your key performance indicators for you.
I thought it was, you should have seen me punch in the air, yes, when I saw the memo from the state saying, oh, we think we ought to, you've got the data, you ought to start putting together these, and they didn't call them key performance indicators.
No,
called
they
them
have
metrics or something.
This dashboard or something.
Dashboard, yeah, it was
Yeah.
dashboard. And I said, what a novel idea. I would like to add that for some reason, I got on the Concord website for somehow, and they have not a point of view, but a way of presenting their financials to their citizens in a clarity. And so I'm thinking that one project might be to find out from a bunch of towns, maybe not even just in Massachusetts, how do finance committees present to their citizens the state of their finances? Is it graphical? Is it pie charts? Is it words? What do they do? And there were elements in the Concord make it simple. I think they called it a simple summary or something like that, which we could steal, you know, and. Yeah, something like that, but it was, but, you know, we could, I mean, I'm sure they still have it from somebody else, but, and the other thing that perhaps we could even prepare for the next meeting, I went through the audited financials last year of the school and the town, and a little known fact is the auditors present a management letter to both the town and to the school. They're different audit companies. And I, for one, would like to touch my toe a little bit beyond the charter that we seem to have, and to be able to ask that we have a meeting with the town and the school committee and literally go over the last management letter and what their response is to it, so that we know that, you know, I mean, this obviously is important enough for the auditor to put on record as being potentially either places to save money or potential places that could have internal control issues or things of that nature. And I think that would come within our purview. And quite frankly, in one case, the answers from the prior one that I saw were, yeah, most of that's done. And in another case, the answer was, nah, we're not going to do it. And, you know, I think it's important that we have some little creative tension there and find out why aren't they going to do it, and have some of that discussion. So if we could get the latest audited and management letters before the meeting, then we could have, it could be on the agenda. We could have a month of.
I don't see why we couldn't have them. Brian, we wouldn't say no, we're not going to do it to our auditors, would we?
No.
No, I never answered an auditor like that, even when I had no intention of doing it. It was always something about other priorities. No, I don't see why we couldn't do that. For those of you who are not CPAs, who are not worked with CPAs, the management letter is from our CPAs saying what they suggest might be good improvements or deficiencies. They cited, obviously not major deficiencies, or they wouldn't give you a letter of approval, but they always have some points that they raise.
And by doing it now, I think the audit comes in like September, October? I mean, it's for June 30th, so it's, when do they issue the?
Yeah, this year's audit, I think we get it done sometime in the end of December.
Yeah, so, but it's late, it's long ago enough that the response to the management letter would be timely to talk in April or May or even June before we get into next year's budget.
The other thing we might consider looking at is, I know I follow the OPEB liability fairly closely, but, you know, there was a question raised about the Middlesex pension liability. I know I saw an audit report some years ago, but I don't follow it nearly as closely as I do the others. So that's something we could take a look at also. But these are all just ideas, and you're going to have way more ideas for projects than you have time to do them.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
On the OPEB, is that using an assumed rate of return?
Yes, uses many rates of return, actually.
What is the rate of return that they assume that they're giving? I mean, I would assume these things are not invested in necessarily stocks or bonds and stuff like that. They'd be real conservative.
No, they are invested in, because they're long-term pension programs. That, you know, it's certainly not all stocks, but
Yeah.
I think the assumed rate of return was 7 the last time I looked at one of the reports. But they are not, they're not managed the same way like town funds are, that pretty much have to be, you know, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Rate of return situation, because you're dealing with liabilities that are going to extend out over 30 and 40 years. And you're not going to get that kind of growth in CDs. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, I think some, especially some of the newer members might enjoy some of the sessions sponsored by like the Mass Municipal Association and the Mass Association of Finance Committees.
Yeah.
That kind of
We
training, where you
we
get,
didn't do any of that this year,
no,
so.
I always found them quite interesting.
All right, so, like I said, at the next meeting, prepared to discuss some of these ideas in a bit more depth, or, you know, they don't have to be the ones we discussed, they can be totally new ones. Don't believe we have any minutes, Dave. The only ones we would have would be from the pre-town meeting, which, okay. Yeah, formally, we have to send them out, even though there was really nothing done at the pre-town meeting. And we only had the one night, right? Yeah. Yeah. Attaboy. Okay, so at our next meeting, we will have election of new officers. The way that one will work is I'll ask for nominations. There'll be an election. At that point, the new chair will take over the meeting, and that'll be the first agenda item after public participation. It will also be Bob's last meeting. So come prepared to say something nice. Sure, John.
Earlier this year, the selectmen established a new award for exemplary volunteer service. It's called the Colonel Francis Faulkner Senior Award. And each selectman names one recipient. Ching Sung passed on his opportunity, so it fell to me. I was informed of this last night, and I immediately submitted the name of Bob Evans. So you ought to report on Friday, May 11th, to Nara Park, where there will be an awards presentation and a ceremony, and you all are invited as part of the entourage. So we're proud to do that.
Excellent. Well deserved. All right, committee reports. Yes, Bob?
It's not a committee report, but one of you will have the pleasure of becoming the trustee of the Health Insurance Trust, beginning at the end of May. We will have a meeting on April, whatever it is, anyway, Thursday of this week at 8 o'clock in room 13 of the administration building, which is the old Merriam School building, and room 13 is in the front door, turn right and go down the steps, and you run right into the meeting. And so if one of you has either been appointed by the chair or wants to volunteer because you think it's a lot of fun, and it is, and you want to come to this meeting, that would be fine. There is no May meeting. There will be a meeting in June. One of the things that will be done in this May meeting, this April meeting, is to approve our request for proposals for stop-loss insurance, and the meeting in June is primarily to elect new officers for the coming year for the trust and to approve whatever stop-loss bid is deemed most favorable for the trust.
Any other reports? Any volunteer? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Well, we hit a milestone at Minuteman. We had our topping off ceremony, which means the last structural beam got put in place. Janet and Diane Blum, myself were there in attendance, and it was a very nice ceremony. We got to sign the beam, the structural beam, before it got put in place. So over and upward, the building should be enclosed, weather tight by November, open for business in the fall of 2019. It's on budget, way ahead of schedule. Just got a bid to tear down the old buildings, about $3 million, $3 million plus.
Thought it was falling down.
Huh? Well, it needs a little help. The thing that complicated it, I guess it's a little bit higher than they budgeted, but because they did some test analysis and some of the structural columns are covered with asbestos naturally, and some of the flooring material has some residual asbestos material in it, so that added a few $100,000 to the demolition, but everything's fallen in place.
Okay, Christie, did you want to volunteer to be on the Kelly's Corner Committee? Because he was clearly staring at you. Okay, we'll wait then.
It would, the next meeting is Monday, 7 a.m.
Are they typically daytime meetings?
Yes, they are. Yeah. I mean, they're open meetings, so anyone may attend.
But they're usually daytime?
I'm sorry?
But they're usually daytime?
Yes, because it's mostly, it's done before people go off to work. That's just seemed to be the best time to catch the group.
Okay, you're on.
I believe it's we usually meet in room 9 downstairs here.
Yeah, I don't think I can make that meeting on Thursday, but I'll probably be the Health Insurance Trust rep. Any other business that needs to come before the committee? If not, I'll entertain
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Always wins.
That's too easy.